Welcome to week 4 of Breathe by OMNoire. Can you believe how fast these weeks have gone by? I mean, weeks ago we were with Dr. Joy and we're talking about healing from a painful breakup and how to identify toxic relationships, but also how to establish boundaries. And the work that we've been doing in Breathe by OMNoire is really the internal work, right? On how to identify what's healthy and what's not for us. And today we're with Chef Ahki. And we're going to talk about all things nutrition because what we put in our body shows up on the outside. Afterwards, we're going to be able to ask her questions on what foods are good to shrink fibroids and also for your reproductive system to have healthy periods, maybe better sleep, and maybe even better sex. So welcome to week 4 of Breathe by OMNoire.
Taylor here, and welcome to our Thanksgiving Master Class. I am so grateful for you guys joining us, and I'm so excited to show you guys some of my favorite recipes for the holiday season because Thanksgiving's right around the corner, and then right after that, you've got Christmas. So I wanted to make sure that you ladies were equipped with the proper ingredients and the right dishes that are going to really impress your friends and family. So, I know some of you are super eager to get started, some of you have already started, and maybe many of you have your veggies chopped, you're already boiling your water for your mac and cheese noodles. Well, good, because that's going to be our first dish today. Some of you guys are familiar with me, some of you are not, so I just want to take a moment to also introduce myself. I am Ahki Taylor of GoChefAhki.com. I have been a chef for the last 8 years, and I started my career as a celebrity chef, working towards wellness for people who are interested in savory, delicious dishes that were also very healthy. So I want to make sure that you guys, in joining us on this journey, you are equipped with everything that you need, not just mentally and spiritually, but you have the right tools to be at your best physically. So we're also going to open up the space for Q&A after we cook together today so that you can ask all your burning questions about maybe some of your personal health matters, whether that's just overall diet and nutrition, whether it's about rest and sleep, whether it's about personal health issues like diabetes, fibroids, reproductive disorders, any of those burning questions that you have. I am looking forward to talking to you guys about those things. My background is in nutrition, colon irrigation, and then also nutritional counseling. So feel free to fire them at me after we conclude our cooking session. So hopefully you guys have your pots and pans out, you've got your mixing bowls, your spoons, your measuring cups out. As you can see here, I've got all my ingredients for my first dish laid out here. We're going to start with our mac and cheese. Now this mac and cheese is famous, and it's famous because not only is it plant-based, but it has those same creamy, delicious texture and flavors that we all have grown to know and love about mac and cheese. Now, I would probably put my mac and cheese up against just about anybody. So after today, you will know officially how to make the most lemon macaroni and cheese you've ever tasted, plant-based. So as you can see so far, well, let me start by saying our 3 dishes on the menu today are typically side dishes when it comes to holiday meals. When your holiday meal is plant-based, you're mostly doing a lot of different sides. So we're talking macaroni and cheese. We're going to do a braised red cabbage with currants, one of my favorites, and really easy to make. And then we'll end with a dessert, and that's going to be my take on peach cobbler. It's going to be semi-raw with the crust, but we're going to have a nice hot peach topping with some whipped cream to go with it, or you can use ice cream. It's totally up to you. So, are you guys ready to get cooking? I hope so. We've got a boiling pot of water here for our noodles. We also have a hot oven. I have preheated it to 375 so that it can be ready to bake once we are finished with our noodles and our sauce. So what you want to do with this dish here is get your noodles out, get your water boiling. You're gonna need your vegan butter. I know in your ingredients it said coconut butter, so I wanna make this very clear that you could use either or. I like to use butter flavored coconut oil, and I also like to use Earth Balance vegan butter. There are so many different vegan butters on the market, so I just wanted you guys to have the option that you can use any type of vegan butter that you prefer that you can find available. Also to this dish, very important, is gonna be our milk. I like the thick consistency of creamy coconut milk, so that's what we're using today, but I have used hemp milk with this dish as well. It turned out wonderfully. And then also, we have got really important component is our Dijon mustard. You want to use a really good quality Dijon mustard. We want that nice strong flavor to come through, and that's what's going to really give our mac and cheese that kick, that color. And then to that, we also have our nutritional yeast. Now, typically, I do not use nutritional yeast in my cooking. It is not considered electric or alkaline, so I want to make that very clear. My goal is to make sure that you are eating foods that have a pH of a 7.5 or higher, but this is the holidays, and everybody's dying to know how to make a plant-based mac and cheese. I know some of you guys are transitioning, okay? So, wanted to make that clear. What I did do was get my spelt flour. Now, this is really important. We're making a bechamel sauce as our cheese sauce. So this is really important. If you know anything about kind of standard French cooking, bechamel sauce is one of the first things that you're going to learn, and it's really important. It's technically just good old gravy, okay? So what you're going to do is melt your butter, start adding your flour to make your bechamel sauce, and then you slowly add in your liquid or your milk and your broth, okay? So that's really, really important. This is a spelt flour. If you weren't able to find spelt flour, ladies, this works just fine with all-purpose or wheat flour, whatever that you have on hand, okay? But this is what we're using today. I also have a combination of onion and garlic powder. Again, this is just gonna add another layer of flavor. We've got our pink salt and our black pepper, along with our smoked paprika to really set off the flavor here. Now, I know some of you guys have questions about our crust, our topping. So this is really important. I suggested that you get spelt bread. Any old bread will do. I toasted mine. I want you guys to just see this here. I toasted my bread and I put it in my food processor to get this nice crumbly mixture. So if you want to go ahead and pop your bread in the oven now, or pop it right in the toaster, then it'll go ahead and toast up in seconds. And you can go ahead and do that while you're having your water boiling in your oven heated, okay? So you can do that now, but that's all I did with this. I put it in the toaster, threw it right in my food processor, which you're going to need anyway for your crust today. So hopefully you've got your food processor. You cannot prepare our dessert crust today without a food processor. That's just one of the key components to making that nice fluffy crust, all right? So I also brought an organic breadcrumb here because this is a store-bought breadcrumb that I know many of you have already on hand, or maybe you can find it in the stores. I wanted to give you that option as well, that you can use breadcrumbs, saute it up with butter, and you can certainly have a nice fluffy topping for your mac and cheese. Now, last but not least, before I toss my noodles in, or while I'm tossing my noodles in, I wanted to talk about cheese. This is really, really important because we are not using conventional cheese, and we really wanted to have that nice creamy texture. Well, let me tell you, the bechamel sauce alone, with all the flavors that we use today, is going to give you that nice creamy cheesy texture. This is something that are in your notes that I discussed. If you wanted to just go ahead and add more of that cheesy richness, you can add cheese. There are so many plant-based cheeses on the market, you guys. I know it gets really confusing, so I want to just clear it up for you right now because I've tasted all of them. And honestly, they're just not that great, but Follow Your Heart is one of my favorites. So if you just love cheese and you're trying to transition and slowly let go of the dairy cheese, this is one of the best on the market, hands down. It melts well, the flavor's phenomenal, and they also come in different flavors. So we may use a little bit of cheese today. You don't need it, but if you have it, if you found it, whatever dairy cheese, non-dairy cheese you found will work, okay? So, y'all ready for mac and cheese? So I'm just gonna go ahead now and toss my noodles right into my water that has been boiling now for about 8 minutes. really important to note, you can make this mac and cheese with any noodle that you have or whatever you find, but just for the health benefit, I want to stress that you guys start to be very careful with your grains and with your pastas. Get away from all the wheat and semolina pasta. That's really, really important. If you're going to do pasta, and you should only do it sparingly, you want to make it the best possible. So chickpea pasta, lentil pasta, spelt or even kamut pasta would be a much better version of pasta that you could use, much healthier. And this one is spelt, but you can also use buckwheat. That would be a gluten-free pasta as well. I know many of us are struggling with gluten. I certainly am. And as much as I can keep it out of my diet, I do try to do that, okay? So, we've got our noodles in here. This will only take about 3 to 5 minutes to cook up the way we want. Then we're going to drain it. And while that's boiling, I'm going to go ahead and start on our bechamel sauce. Are you guys ready for bechamel? So all you're going to need is your saucepan. All right, and it could be a nice flat saucepan like this. And then you're going to start off with your butter and your flour. You want to have all your ingredients close to you because you're going to be whisking and adding really quickly. Very important. This is not something you want to walk away from. You're going to have to keep your eyes on it, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and grab my milk and everything that I need right next to me. And I've got a whisk here. You can use whatever you have on hand, but I like to use my whisk as I'm working with a bechamel sauce because we want to keep it nice and loose as we're adding our liquid to it. Really, really important, okay? And then after our sauce gets going, gets bubbly, I'm going to add some salt and pepper to it just so that we can add a little flavor to it. As you can see, I've got my baking dish here already ready so that once our noodles are done, our sauce is made, I'm going to melt a little extra cheese in there with our bechamel and pour it right into this dish over our noodles. Throw our crust on top, pop it in the oven. How does that sound? Yay! So I can't hear you, but I can feel your energy. So I'm really, really excited. Okay, so here we go. We've got our noodles looking good over here. And in fact, I'm going to actually move. Yay, I've got heat here. Okay. Nice fat heap of butter. This is about 4 tablespoons of butter that I just added in here. Okay, I'm just going to let that melt down. How are we looking, guys? Y'all can see everything? Okay. And this is just about melted. I'm going to slowly start adding in my flour. All right. Perfect. So I'm just spreading it around in the butter, wanting to make sure that it gets evenly throughout this pot. I just added about 3 tablespoons of flour. And then I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit. You want your heat to be right at about a medium low. This is actually, this is like a typical roux almost in the beginning. This is kind of how you would start a gumbo, for example. Okay. Nice. Beautiful. So now that all my flour is dissipated into my butter, matter of fact, I think I want to add a little bit more. I want it to get nice And then we'll add our milk, and that's what's gonna give us that nice, creamy, gravy-like texture. Awesome. Remember, keep your fire low, ladies. We do not want to have a smoky, burnt flavor in our bechamel. That will ruin your gravy. If you're making gumbo or something like that, you can get away with that, but not for this, okay? We want a nice, light roux here. Okay. It's just about perfect. Sweet. All right. And you just want to work it until all the flour dissipates. All right. Good to go. This is also really awesome if you're making gravies and you want to start adding fresh herbs or dried herbs in at this time. It smells amazing, and it's just wonderful to make a nice gravy for just about anything. Okay, so I'm going to start adding in my full fat coconut milk. Oh yes. Awesome. And once you pour your milk, you can go ahead and turn your heat up just a little bit more. You can still keep it on about a medium heat. And you just want to stir up everything really, really good. And to that, we're going to add some salt and pepper. If you were doing gravy at this point, you go ahead and add broth, you add herbs, you can add fresh onion, mushroom, shallots. This looks really good. Add the rest of our milk. Perfection. All right. So you could pretty much leave your bechamel just like this. At this point, I'm going to add a little fresh black pepper. I love black pepper in my mac and cheese. It's just not the same without it. And I'm using pink Himalayan sea salt today, which has phenomenal benefits, ladies. Do not let the medical institute tell you that you cannot have salt or salt is bad for you. That is a myth. So I want to clear that up right now. We can talk about it later. But salt actually has wonderful benefits. It's full of minerals. Pink Himalayan sea salt has over 84 minerals. Really, really good for you, actually. What is bad for you is the wrong kind of salt. So we want to make that very, very clear. And our noodles are looking really good. Oh yeah. I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat off on those. And make sure my heat is nice and low on my bechamel. And give it a whisk. Make sure that the salt and pepper gets nice and combined really well. You gotta put your arm into it, ladies, now. Go ahead and get in there. Make sure that your butter and all your salt and pepper is combined. This is perfect. It's nice and creamy, nice and fatty. Perfect. And to this, I'm gonna go ahead and start adding my Dijon mustard. We're adding about a tablespoon and a half, maybe a little more, if you just really like that flavor like I do. I love it. Mix that in there really good. Make sure that heat is low. Everybody's stove is different. We're on an open flame here, so it gets really hot. Beautiful. And now I'm going to add in my yeast. The yeast, if you haven't worked with nutritional yeast before, it has a really unique nutty flavor. And it just makes everything taste really good, honestly. It's a bit addictive. And it honestly is one of those items that when you're first going plant-based, you can get hooked on immediately. but you want to be really careful. It's not considered a health food, although it's called nutritional yeast. We do not consider it alkaline. It has a very low pH, and ultimately it's not good for you. So you don't want to get caught up in using too much yeast or starch in any form. But this is going to make for a really, really yummy mac and cheese. All right. So that's that. Now we just let that cook for maybe another 45 seconds or so, honestly, before I pour it over my mac and cheese. Doesn't really need much else. But because we're just in the mood, this is a cheat day for me, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and add in my Follow Your Heart smoked Gouda cheese. Now, because this is a smoked Gouda mac, all you really need is your smoked paprika. And you can put about, really it just needs a pinch. Honestly, it's very, very strong. But I won't put very much because I'm gonna add smoked Gouda cheese to this, and it just makes the color really beautiful too. Really, really nice color. Oh yes. Oh, it smells amazing. So I'm gonna add in about half of this packet here. And it would behoove me to make really, really small chunks of this. I'll take about half of this and just slice it up. Okay. Make sure my heat is very, very low while I do that. The smaller you make these, the quicker they're gonna melt, but it melts really, really good. Sweet. So I'm just gonna let this melt down. My oven is nice and hot, and I'm gonna use my baking dish here to just pour everything over the top of this. But while I do that, actually, we'll let this melt and we'll go ahead and add our butter to our breadcrumbs so that our breadcrumbs are already ready. Yeah? Yeah, because that will take about maybe 3 minutes to fully melt. Oh my God. This looks so good. And you can taste right before you throw it onto your noodles. You might want to just taste it just a little bit to make sure that the salt and pepper is right for you. We all have different tastes. You know, that's why we say a pinch or, you know, to taste, season to taste. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of butter and breadcrumb to my other skillet, and then you can just put that to the side, and after you've added your noodles to your baking dish, you can just spread your crumble over the top, cover it up, throw it in the oven, okay? So I'm adding some onion powder to this, guys. This is my garlic onion blend, and the garlic actually is optional. You don't have to have it. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon. This cheese is really, really good. It's almost completely melted already. And it's going to get really nice and creamy once it gets in the oven with our noodles. The noodles are going to be a little wet, which, you know, helps with also texturally making everything really creamy because this is kind of thick, which is great. We want it nice and creamy. But once it hits the noodles, it hits the oven, it's just going to be perfect. All right. So I'm actually going to take my noodles and strain them, and then we will switch our pan to the other eye. to go ahead and dump them now. Perfect. Oh, that's a lot of noodles. We're going to be able to feed the whole crew today. Sweet. All right, I'm going to turn my cheese off because we're good with that. Beautiful. We're going to go ahead and warm up our breadcrumbs. And maybe after this is done, Christina will come and taste and let you guys know how it really tastes. You have to take my word for it. So I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of butter. Let that warm up. Perfect. And let our breadcrumbs toast up just a little. While that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and put our sauce onto our noodles. This is the fun part. Gotta get this pour shot. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Jesus. Yes. Who knew? Oh. Yes. Gorgeous. Oh my goodness. So you see all these chunks of cheese that's gonna all melt down and they're really good. Give us a nice stir. Oh my goodness. You know what I love most about this dish is when you get that nice 3-layered bite and the nice buttery breadcrumb. You get that bite and then it just sinks right into that nice creamy noodly. Oh gosh, what's better? Perfection. Woo. I think I'm gonna need a bigger dish next time. Oh my goodness. Holy moly. All right. So we've got breadcrumbs. Toss those right in the mix. Get them all in there. Yes. This is going to be such a flavor overload. If you guys have made any plant-based dishes, and you know the combination of the onion powder, the mustard, the butter, the smoked paprika, it's just, oh, it's just a beautiful combination. So we just want these to get, they're already kind of browned, but we want them to have like a nice kind of crunchy texture. So that's why we're browning. And we also want that nice kind of buttery crunch, that buttery flavor once we bite into our breadcrumbs. Oh my goodness. I'm going to add a little more of my dried breadcrumbs to that. We'll add a little bit more butter. So I want to cover my whole dish. And you can throw a little salt and pepper in with this. You can throw a little bit of yeast right on top of it. Any of your spices just to kind of add a little bit of more kick to it. We'll add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And I can already kind of smell it toasting. That's what you want. We want to get that nice crumble on this thing. And that's really it, guys. It wasn't easy. Not difficult. You can do this, ladies. Okay? All right. Add just a little bit more butter. We're going to get every little piece of that. Ooh. Yes. Okay. And my fire's on a little more than medium, just because I want to make sure that it gets nice and crunchy. Oh my goodness. All right, I think we're good to go here. Sweet. noodles really well. Want to make sure that each noodle gets its fair share of this creamy goodness. Can y'all tell how much I enjoy this? Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and top this off with the rest of the cheese sauce. Oh my goodness. This smells divine, ladies. If you are not already cooking, trust and believe. This smells amazing. Okay, I'm gonna top it off. The rest. Perfect. Okay. Easy. The only thing that won't be easy is maybe the cleanups. Go ahead and list your help now. I'm just gonna spread that around and make it nice and flat so we can go ahead and put our crumbs right over the top. Oh yes. Sweet. We got a few over in this corner here. Okay, okay, all right. So just spread that out. Having a nice flat wooden spoon or a spatula is perfect. And breadcrumbs right over the top. And sometimes I like to add a nice bit of nutritional yeast right on top of that even, just to kind of, set up that little extra layer of flavor. Ooh. Ooh, your granny doesn't make it like this. Oh my goodness. Now I want to hear from you ladies. If you love this dish, if it turned out just the way you wanted, if you found this to be easy and a good substitute for your regular holiday mac and cheese and your family loves it, please let me know. I want to hear from you. Okay. Sprinkle up our yeast. We're going to throw this in the oven, ladies. It'll be done in about 15 minutes. We're going to take a break before we go to our next dish. I hope you enjoyed this. Hey guys, welcome back. We are ready for dish number 2, and that's going to be our braised cabbage. But before we go into this phenomenal purple cabbage dish that I love so much, it is truly a family favorite, I want to address a few of the questions in the room. So again, when you are cooking with a chef, you can follow the exact same recipe. Your dish oftentimes won't come out exactly the same. There's so many elements here based on your fire, based on how quick you're stirring, how you're mixing your flour, your bechamel to keep it loose or not look so loose. Also the type of cheese that you use. All these are different factors. How fatty your coconut milk was in comparison to mine. I use a full fat coconut milk. Maybe or maybe not you were able to find full fat coconut milk. So all these things make a difference. The type of flour that you use, some are thicker than others if you use all-purpose or if you use spelt. So I just want to say that, ladies, I know we're all substituting certain items here, trying to make it the best that we can, but just a little common sense. Make sure if it's not thick enough, add a little more flour, a little bit more butter, then you up your spices just a little bit more, your salt and pepper, okay? If it is if it's too thick, if it's not thick, too thick, then you would add a little bit more broth, add a little bit more milk, okay? Just want to put that out there. Now, we are already at about 10 minutes. I'm going to turn my oven down just a little bit, okay? And we're going to get started. So we've got here a nice big sturdy pot, but you can use, there's varieties of pots that you can use for this dish. And in fact, this is a really, really good dish to do braised cabbage. I think I want to actually do a bigger saucepan today, just so you guys can see a little better. I think that would be helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and use a bigger saucepan here. This is where you want to add your grapeseed oil. You can use butter, grapeseed oil, you can use hemp oil, you can use coconut oil, whatever you prefer. I really like to use grapeseed oil, but I also really like the buttery flavor of vegan butter, so I'm going to use that again today. So I'm going to go ahead and heat my pan to a medium, there we go, to a medium temperature, and toss in my butter because I want to brown some onions. All right, so the first thing we want to do is get our shallots or our onions. The recipe called for shallots or red onion. So this is 1 chopped medium red onion, and we may not even need this whole onion. It's actually pretty large. So I'm just going to kind of make sure I got my butter all over my pan. Make sure your grapeseed oil covers your pan, and to that you can go ahead and start to add in your onion. Now the onion is going to act as a base flavor for this dish. You know I love onions, so I'm going to go ahead and toss this huge onion on in and let that saute. All right, get my fire just a little higher. I take it to a medium high so we can move through it. And as long as you're watching over it, you should be good with that. So I'm going to kind of let that cook while I go over the ingredients for this dish. All right. We have here our shallots or onions. We have our oil or our fat. And we have purple red cabbage. We did a rough chop on these. And we also have some currants. Now, if you can't find currants, raisins are just fine. These are some dried currants here. This is just going to add a nice pop of sweetness to this dish. We also have some apple juice, which is going to be combined with our broth to just add that nice sweet element to this dish, because that's kind of what's going to make this cabbage special and unique from most cabbage that's just savory. It'll be a sweet and savory, okay? And gives it that nice kind of festive holiday vibe. So we also have some organic vegetable broth here, but as a substitute, you can also use vegetable bouillon cubes. So I want to make that clear as well. It's pretty easy to find both. Vegetable cubes pack an amazing flavor. I use them often for certain dishes, particularly vegetables. If you are not used to cooking, ladies, and cooking is just not your strong point, it's a nice cheat item to have on hand with your vegetables, just about anything. But you can pretty much put veggies, a little bit of water into your pan, throw in your vegetable bouillon, put a lid on it, and you are good to go, okay? So remember that tip. All right, so we also have our lemon for our acid. We've got some pink Himalayan sea salt, once again, black pepper, and allspice. And again, we're using Dijon mustard to add that nice tangy flavor. When that salty, sweet, savory tanginess combines, it's just beautiful in this dish. Okay, so our onions are almost translucent. And we're gonna spread those out and give them a little bit more time. We also have our onion garlic blend here once again with our onion garlic powder. It's a blend, and this is just going to add a little bit more savoriness to this dish. I'm also going to use agave for this dish. You can use maple syrup, you can use turbinado sugar, coconut sugar as your sweetener of choice. I love to use coconut nectar. It's probably one of my favorite sweeteners to use. It's going to be low on the glycemic index for diabetics out there. You don't want to use a lot of heavy sweeteners. Agave, particularly volcanic agave, would be ideal, as well as the coconut nectar or even date syrup with this dish would be wonderful and also ideal. Okay, so we're going to use agave today. And yeah, our onions are looking good. I think we can go ahead now and add our cabbage. Oh, that smells so good. So I'm just going to fill this up, because this is going to cook down. So I'm going to try to put as much cabbage in here as I can fit. To that, I'm going to start adding my spices and my broth. So we're going to start with our apple juice and our broth. Now, I know you guys are thinking, Chef ain't measured nothing since she started this, this video. And I'll be honest, you guys, I have been cooking for so long that I don't do a whole lot of measuring. I make these dishes hundreds of times, and I just kind of know what I'm doing, but I do understand that you guys are following that recipe, so please do so. As you're watching me, please use your recipe, okay? Beautiful. And we're going to add in our apple juice.
No, it's in there again.
Beautiful. And we have our heat still on about a medium-high temperature. That's what we want. Perfect. And to that, I'm going to add my lemon. And I hate getting seeds in my food. We ain't got time for that, so I love using this nice little hand squeezer. Perfect. Okay. And you can use apple vinegar with this. You could use balsamic vinegar with this dish. Is wonderful. I've used all of those different acids to make this dish. It's good nonetheless. Okay. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and start to add in my spices. Powder, our allspice, and some sea salt. And once this starts down a bit, we'll add our currants. And now the liquid that they will absorb will just make it really nice and plump and soft in this dish. And flavorful. I love adding apples or pears to this dish as well. That's another really fun element for the holiday. If you want to add some more texture and sweetness, you can add chopped apples. Or pears. All right. Beautiful. So really, really important, ladies, you've got to put a lid on this baby here. Cook it at a medium-high temperature and let it get really nice and soft. Now, I don't mind my cabbage being a little al dente. I love the color. I love the presentation of that with holiday meal, but that's totally up to you. If you prefer a nice soft cabbage, that's fine. You can go ahead and cook it for maybe another extra 5 to 8 minutes if you want it a little more soft than what the recipe calls for. Recipes are there just to guide us and give us a little direction, but everyone has their own particular flavor and texture profile. So this is just to kind of give you guys an idea of what you can do with this dish. So I'm just kind of working all my spices in here, making sure that everything is nice and coated before we cover it and let it do its magic. Sweet. I can smell the mac and cheese, and it's already combining with this yummy cabbage smell. Oh my goodness, it looks beautiful. Perfect. I think we're right at about 15 minutes. I'm going to turn my oven off on my mac and cheese. And the crust just looks amazing. The topping is nice and golden brown. Beautiful. Okay. I think we can go ahead and put our currants in now and our Dijon mustard. To me, this dish just would not be the same without a nice, good, heaping helping of Dijon mustard. Awesome. Just gonna work that in and add my currants. Beautiful. This will take about 10 minutes to cook up really nicely, maybe another 10 minutes if you want it really, really soft. But once you put that lid on it, your pan is hot, your spices are there. I'm actually gonna add a little black pepper to this. You can use cayenne pepper, you guys, with all of these dishes that I have put black pepper. Feel free to use cayenne pepper if you like a really nice kick. Okay. The last thing that we will add before we complete this dish will be our sweetener. I like to get all my base flavors in first. Oh yes, this looks amazing. My grandmother requests this every year. She will not let me come home if I don't make this dish. Even if your family isn't crazy about purple cabbage or maybe they've never tried it, trust me, they will love this dish. I can smell all the allspice in there. Clove is also a really, really nice flavor in this dish. I made it with clove, I made it with cinnamon. Really, really good. Super savory with just a hint of sweetness. So good. Nice. Okay. The only way you can mess up this dish, ladies, is if it's way too sweet or too salty. salty, okay? So keep that in mind. Don't be scared. It's the only way you can mess this up. You cannot mess this thing up. All right. So all the flavors are worked in. Our cabbage is already shrunk tremendously. It's already getting nice and soft. So I'm going to go ahead and top this off with my black pepper and my sweetener. Okay, I think I lost my black pepper. That's all right, I'm gonna move on. Add a sweetener. We'll find it. Awesome. Does that smell good, guys? Oh! I think it's just about time to take out our mac and cheese. So I'm gonna cover this up and let it cook down. And I'll pull out our mac and cheese and let you guys have a look. Maybe we'll sprinkle a little bit of paprika on it. You can decorate it even with maybe a little fresh parsley, dry parsley, and make it look really pretty before you serve it. Oh my goodness. Yes, okay. So the key is just to leave this cabbage alone. Once you have everything in there that you need, you don't need to mess with it. Cover it up and let it do its business, okay? Awesome. Okay, who's ready to check out our mac and cheese? I am. Listen, I had at least 5 mac and cheese dishes this weekend. I was a test judge, chef judge for 2 different events in the last 2 days. So I tasted so much mac and cheese, and I gotta tell you, they don't got nothing on this right here. You guys are truly getting the best of the best. Are we ready? Oh, I'm gonna lay this out here so you guys can just oh, so good. Beautiful. Oh yeah. We'll let it kind of hang out. You want to let your mac and cheese just kind of rest so that everything just kind of congeals and it's ready to rock and roll. You can sprinkle a little bit of black pepper, smoked paprika, cayenne, parsley to just make it really, really pretty. And yeah. And then we'll give it a taste test. Matter of fact, I'll pull out a few little taste plates. Awesome. Okay, so ovens are off. Stove is cranking. Our purple cabbage is doing its thing. And let's check it out. The purple from this cabbage is just coming through. Looking beautiful. Oh my goodness. It's almost perfect. This is definitely a showstopper. You can plate this up, set it out in a nice beautiful tray right next to your mac and cheese. Maybe get some collard greens, some green beans, some stuffing, and what else do you need? Who cares about the turkey at that point, right? All about sides. Brussels sprouts would be a nice touch with this. You can actually do this same recipe with Brussels sprouts. It's amazing. Have a nice like honey Dijon Brussels sprout. Awesome. So I'm going to let this cook down for about another 5 minutes or so, and we're going to taste our mac and cheese, and we're going to do a little cleanup before we go into our dessert dish. So maybe it's a good time to go to a break. Yes, I'll see you guys back momentarily. and we are back at the Holiday Master Class. I'm Ahki Taylor, and again, thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope that you've had a great time experimenting with me in the kitchen today, learning some new tricks on how to make some amazing holiday meals. So, we have brought out our beautiful mac and cheese. I'm really, really excited to try that and to share it with you. And we also have just completed our second dish of the day, our braised purple cabbage. Oh my goodness. This just smells amazing. The texture is perfect. We're going to go ahead and keep this closed up and let it just continue to do its thing while we prepare for our third dish of tonight. You guys, I'm so excited to introduce you to this super easy, quick peach cobbler. You can make this dish in under 15 minutes. Today we're going to do it in about maybe 10 to 12 minutes. Does that sound good? All right, y'all. This is so simple and so delicious. It is really a really phenomenal, easy and gluten-free, wheat-free, starch-free, dairy-free, sugar-free take on the original recipe. Now, I know you're thinking, how the heck are you making peach cobbler without the eggs and the flour and all the sugar and the butter and all those crazy ingredients? Well, trust me, it's all about layering the flavors and the textures of what you love so much, what you're used to, but without all the yucky junk. All right, so today we're just going to replace some of those conventional ingredients with new ingredients. So what we have here, and don't mind me, y'all, I'm drinking Prosecco. Cheers to everybody and happy Sunday. If you had a really rough, crazy week and an even crazier weekend, I hope you got your wine glasses out too, you guys. So let me just tell you, we are starting with fresh ingredients. We've got our peaches. This dish is always better, like any dish with fresh ingredients. If you got fresh peaches on hand, of course, here they're out of season. But if you found fresh peaches good on you wherever you are in the world, that is how you're going to get the most out of this dish. But if you don't, frozen is just fine. So we've got some peaches here. Just make sure you've thawed your peaches, ladies. Thawed your peaches. And if not, you can still get away with this, as we are going to heat these peaches. If you were going to do a raw vegan version of this, it's phenomenal as well. You would just add all of your spices to your peaches and let them marinate, usually from 6 to 12 hours or overnight. Let it marinate, and then this dish is just equally as phenomenal. So we also have our walnuts and our dates. Really, really important. You can use just about any nut to make a nut crust like this. Super simple. This is the base for just about any of my desserts. It's going to be a nice nut crust. The stickiness from the date is going to blend in nicely in our food processor with our nut to make a nice kind of gooey, sticky crust. To that, we're going to add in some spices. So we've got cinnamon, we've got allspice, and for sweetener we have our raw agave nectar. Once again, we're going to add a little bit of butter to cook up our peach cobbler with our spices, a pinch of sea salt to our crust, and we're going to layer it with some dairy-free whipped cream. How does that sound? So this is one of my favorite dishes. You could use ice cream if you like. Vanilla ice cream would go perfectly with this. And yeah, we've got our food processor, which is going to be how we're going to start this dish. All right. So grab your food processors and let's get to blending. So first, you want to go ahead and fill up your food processor about halfway. If you don't have a food processor and you're just watching today, you're going to prepare this later, don't feel like you got to go break the bank. You do not have to do that. You can get a $10, $15 food processor from just about anywhere, Walmart. They work just fine, okay? For many, many years. I mean, 20 years ago when I first started blending up cakes and pies, I literally had like a $10 little mini, like a little small mini bullet from, I think, like a Walgreens or something, or Walmart. And I worked that thing. I made so many pies from that thing for at least 2-3 years before it just blew out on me, okay? So don't feel like you gotta go break the bank. All right, so now also very important to note is your dates need to be pitted, okay? If you don't pull that seed out of that date, it can ruin your food processor and just mess up your crust altogether, okay? You don't want any pit in your crust. So we've pitted our dates, we've taken the seed out, and if you've got some nice plump juicy dates like this, then you're gonna get a really nice crust. If your dates are small and tight and dry a little bit, sometimes it's good to just put them in water. You can add them in just a little warm water. You can let them soak, not for too long, but just long enough to get them nice and moist. Really, really important, okay? So, I think we're good to go with our crust here. Add a few of these nuts because we want to share with all of our friends here today. All right, perfect. Now, I've got my food processor back here, so I'm gonna blend, and I'm gonna let you guys just kind of give me a second while I blend this in the processor. I added just a little pinch of sea salt because who doesn't like a pinch of sea salt in their sweet items? This is gonna be loud. Right. Very important to note, when you are blending your nuts, you want to look for that nice fine crust to start pulling away from the edges of your processor. That's when you know it's done. So you don't get all those heavy chunks of nuts into your dish. You want to make sure it's nice and fine. So just watch for that. So we can pulse one more time. So right as it starts to pull away from the edges, that's when you know that it's done. It's starting to tighten up, and you've got the dates fully mixed in with those nuts, so it's nice and sticky. Really important. Okay, so I'm gonna put that to the side while we get ready for our peach cobbler. So first thing you want to do is take your peaches, throw them in your skillet, heat it up to about a medium heat. And we're going to start adding spices as well as our butter. It's really important to make sure that you sweeten this just enough for your personal taste. So I would suggest that you taste it. I just added my allspice. And I think I ran off somewhere with my cinnamon. I'm going to go ahead and add my sweetener and my butter. And I want this to get nice and bubbly because I want my peaches to be very, very soft. Okay. I want that to just cook down. This dish is wonderful with your vanilla extract. Should go in here. You can add nutmeg, you can add clove, you can add cardamom. I mean, you can just continue to go crazy. I've done this with ginger. You can really go crazy with this dish and add more yummy goodness, but you don't have to. But you're just basically using the basic flavors of a peach cobbler. I'm going to give this a stir, make sure that's mixed really well. Awesome. And I want to make sure all the peaches get nice and coated with the cinnamon. Beautiful. This is something that you can hook up super fast and just knock the socks off just anybody. Matter of fact, I think I made this dish 2 weeks before I got pregnant. Seriously, I got proposed to after I made this peach cobbler, and he has never stopped talking about this peach cobbler dish. Honest to God. You do not have to go crazy trying to roll out crust and make some fancy dessert. You can truly crank out this crust, layer it with fruit. You could do this with blackberries. You could do this with apples. You can do it with raspberries. Same concept, same ingredients, different fruits, whatever fruit you like most. I've done it with mango, and it just works. It's just delicious. It's simple and it's quick and it's super impressive. And you can do frozen fruits, and then you don't even have to worry about peeling your peaches or your mangoes or your apples. Super quick. Okay, so we want that nice kind of thick caramelized thing to happen with the butter and the syrup and all the peach juices. That's why we're heating it pretty high, so that we can just let it get kind of nice and caramelized. Oh my goodness, this looks amazing. Oh, and that way, all this nice sauce right around your pan, you can just pour right on down your cobbler, and the crust will just absorb all that flavor. Now, I've got my dairy-free whipped cream over here. I love coconut whipped cream. There's several on the market now. Hopefully you guys found some good ones. I think this is, I'm gonna turn my heat down just a little. I found one called True Whip, and this one is a organic, has no corn syrup in it, no hydrogenated oils, gluten-free. And what I did was I froze it, but I put it in the fridge to kind of let it thaw out a little bit, so that's important. If your whipped cream is frozen, pull it out now and let it go ahead and just kind of get soft, so that you can start to layer your parfait with this. And you can serve this a million ways. We're going to layer it in a parfait style. We're going to use our champagne glass since we're sipping Prosecco and we're being fancy. Then we're going to go ahead and layer this up. So while my peaches are cooking, I'm going to start my layering. This is looking close to perfect. Oh yes. I'm going to let my heat come down to about a low now that it's nice and thick. The syrup is really gooey. That's what we want. Almost like a caramel. Beautiful. Get another spoon and start layering. We're going to start with the crust. I'm going to move some things out of the way so you guys can see what's going on here. Okay. So, we've got our glass here. I'm going to take some of our crust. Right. Just to cover the bottom there. Okay. And then to that, we want, again, that syrup to come right on down. Oh, yes. Ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. How delicious does that look? Holy moly. Oh, yes. My peaches are nice and soft. And you can taste this again to make sure it's sweet enough for you. I put plenty of syrup in here, so I think it's plenty sweet. And then to that, we're going to add another layer of crust, actually, because we don't want to melt our whipped cream too soon. A little bit more. And then we're going to add our whipped cream right on top. How gorgeous is that? Another layer of our crust. Beautiful. And some more peaches. And we're just getting a little bit of syrup in there. Oh my God. I don't want it to be too runny. Yes. Oh, oh. is so awesome. How beautiful is that? And to finish it, we'll top it with a little more whipped cream. Beautiful. You can just throw a little bit of syrup right on top of that. And you can take a little bit of your cinnamon and just give it a nice sprinkle. Sometimes I put cacao nibs on top. You can add some raspberries on top. And that is it, ladies. Simple, delicious. You can make these in small little parfait cups and serve them to your guests. Blow them away with this dish. Super easy, super quick. I think we did that in under 10 minutes. How amazing was that? Yay! So here's to your health, ladies. I'm so grateful for each of you for joining us for the OMNoire Chef Masterclass. This was amazing, and I'm looking forward to talking with you guys about your personal health questions. Thank you so much for joining me.
tester because, I mean, I've had a little bit of your cooking before, but I was really curious about this vegan mac and cheese because I was like, there's no cheese,
right,
quote unquote, on the recipe.
Right.
And so Chef was like, well, we're actually going to make the cheese.
Yes.
So I'm excited to try all of this, and I'm taking this plate home and that plate home and anything else that I can. All right,
Yes.
So are you going to taste it with me? Or are you one of those chefs that don't taste your own cooking?
No, I eat
All
my
right.
own cooking. It's so good. But please,
All
let's
right,
start
here
with
we
the
go.
mac and cheese.
This is so good. All right, so how did you guys do at home? Let us know in your comments. I mean, we saw a few challenges, would it being too thick or too runny or too light or whatever the case may be. But like Chef said, when you're at home, the point of cooking and testing and seeing what works and what doesn't work is just the experiment, right?
Absolutely.
Until you get it to what your dish is, right? Because I have tried to follow recipes and like it never comes out what it looks like in a recipe book or anything like that. So the key is just making it your own. But this is fantastic. All right, so I'm gonna try this, which I was really excited about. Here we go. Oh my goodness, this is fantastic. And you said you can do this with Brussels sprouts?
You can.
Oh my god,
really good.
I think I'll try that for Thanksgiving. All right, guys, so we're going to come back in a few moments on our Zoom. I'm going to eat this in the background. I already know it's good. But thank you, Chef. And we're going to talk about, cheers, we're going to talk about a little bit more of your work. And then some of the things that we want to know as Black women, things that we can correct with our diet. Fibroids, like you said, better sleep. I mean, it might be better sex, too.
Yeah, that's let's go.
Every time I say that with my camera team, they are cracking up in the background.
Why?
But listen, you know why I say that is because when you feel good, you look good.
Yes.
And everything else is good.
You make better choices.
You make better choices, exactly. All right, so we'll see you guys in like 5 minutes on Zoom. Thank you.
Cheers.